So if you're looking for a really cool place to visit in Bali, then I definitely recommend Cretya, which is located about 12 minutes from the center of Ubud. So let's take a look and then we will discuss some tips for visiting this place. So one of the best things about this day club is that it's actually very cheap to enter. You can get in and use the facilities for just £5 or about $7, which is really good. You need to get there early, and one thing that most people don't realize is that if you get in for that price, you haven't got any seating. However, if you go early, there is a small section of seating that you may have seen in the video, which is on the upper deck. And this place is actually free to use, and it's got storage bins underneath. So you can actually spend the day here, but it does get very crowded. So if you want to go very cheap and get good seats, you need to get there early. We got there for 8 a.m. as it opened, so I'd recommend doing that. There are other options as well. You can get a hammock, which is about 3 million rupiah, or you can get a day bed, which is about 5 million. And 5 million works out around £250. So it's better if you've got a big group of you and then you want to get some seats. But if you're just a couple or you're traveling on sort of a balanced budget, I'd recommend just getting the cheap option so you can just use the area. If you do go for the day bed and spend the 5 million rupiah, you can actually use that money on food and drink. So that is a minimum spend. So I think this is actually quite good. We did this for the Kaon Jungle Spa Resort just for the day. But for this one, we decided to keep it quite cheap. But we did end up buying some food. So if you're going to spend the day there, you want to have a few drinks, get a meal, then it might actually be worth spending out and getting a day bed, or a little bit cheaper, the hammock. And I think the hammock is the most sort of Instagrammable thing, which is worth doing. We found the food and drinks here actually really reasonable. So the big breakfast that you saw in the video, that was only about £7 or 150 or 145k rupiah, which was good. The actual meals, like the burgers and type of things like that, they're actually even cheaper. They're about £5-6. So it's definitely worth eating there and not worrying too much. The beer was cheap. The small bintangs were about 50k or £2.50, which was good. Cocktails are always a bit more expensive, towards sort of £7, which I would say is kind of normal throughout the tourist areas in Bali. But the menu as a whole is quite sort of Western. You've got pizza, you've got different types of pasta and burgers, so there's something for everyone. The pools are actually quite cold, interestingly, but when it's a very hot day, it doesn't matter too much. But we found ourselves spending most of the time in the big hot tub, which was really good. It's right at the top and overlooks everything. So unlike Kaon Jungle Spa, Cretya does actually get quite busy, especially later in the afternoon. But it's quite lively. There's a DJ that usually plays sort of later in the afternoon, and it doesn't shut till 9 p.m. So I think we stayed from about 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. So one thing some people ask is, should you do the floating breakfast in the morning? It looks very good sort of on Instagram, but how good is it in real life? We decided not to do it. You have to book in advance quite a long time, which means you can't guarantee the weather. So we were quite pleased that we didn't, because the weather, it was actually cold and rainy at sort of 7:30 in the morning. So we looked down, we saw people doing it. It did look a little bit cold, and it's in the cold pool as well. So you need a really bright sunny day. So we're pleased we didn't do that. But one thing as well is that you don't get it privately. You'll be sharing with other people. So there was a lot of couples sort of there trying to take their pictures for Instagram, but it's not just you on your own in the pool. So it's one of those things. If you feel like you need to do it, then maybe. But there are other places that you can do this, especially in like some Airbnbs. I'd say most Airbnbs that have a pool, they always upsell the floating breakfast, which would be a bit nicer. Breakfast as well looked massive, so it depends how much you like to eat. So although it does get very busy and it does feel like one of the more touristy things in Bali, we still really enjoyed it. I don't usually enjoy the really touristy things, but Kretya feels like something you have to do. And if you get there early, you'll get most of the day when it's nice and quiet. You'll be able to get some good pictures with not many people around. And then later on, it does get quite lively. The DJs are really good. I'd recommend checking the website and seeing their event page for different DJs that are featuring. And just overall, it's something that you need to do, even if it's just for a few hours. It's not very expensive to get in. Just make sure you pre-book and make sure you get there early. The queues to get in around sort of 5, 6 p.m. were massive. So you just need to get in early and enjoy it. So if you're looking for somewhere a little bit more chilled with less people, then I would recommend the Kaon Jungle Spa. Now, last week we did a guide on that. It's on our recently posted videos, and hopefully that will give you a good idea. We did both, and I'd probably recommend doing both because it's difficult to decide which one is better. They both are amazing and great places to visit if you're staying in Ubud.